The year was 134 AD. The empire stood vast and unyielding, its roads stretching like veins through conquered lands. In the heart of Rome, young Cassian Varro, son of a senator, dreamed not of marble halls, but of thunderous applause from legions that roared his name. Power fascinated him. It was not gold nor land he desired, but command, the kind that bent men's hearts and empires' wills. Cassian began his rise in Hispania, a posting meant to humble. Yet within 2 years, he quelled rebellion with cunning rather than blood, earning whispers of brilliance. Rome recalled him with honors. The Senate watched. Emperor Hadrian, old and watchful, summoned the young man with quiet eyes, already wary of those whose stars rose too fast in Rome's eternal sky. Cassian returned cloaked in triumph, but Rome's embrace is a serpent's coil. His rise made enemies, praetors, patricians, even old friends turned wary. Still, he climbed. He won games in his name, funded aqueducts with his share of spoils, and even dared speak against the grain in Senate debates. Some called him brave. Others whispered traitor beneath breath. A shadow trailed Cassian, one he did not yet see. His closest ally, Senator Publius Miro, praised him by day but dined with rivals at night. Miro had once loved Cassian like a son, but envy creeps into even noble hearts. The emperor watched them both. Rome had no use for men who gathered too much love or fear, for either could crown or crush an empire's balance. Cassian, in his pride, mistook silence for peace. A campaign in Dacia gave him his greatest victory. Snow fell like ash as his forces surrounded the hill fortress of King Terox. Cassian offered terms, mercy in exchange for submission. The king spat and died with sword in hand. The massacre was swift. Rome cheered, but the Senate saw something colder in Cassian's methods: efficiency without remorse, strategy without soul. The boy had become a weapon. Triumphant again, Cassian returned with chains of gold and tribute. Statues of his likeness appeared in southern provinces, offerings made to him as though he were already divine. The emperor frowned. Rome worships gods only when they're dead. A message arrived soon after. Cassian was to govern Sicily, far from the capital's heart. A gift, it seemed. But gifts in Rome are often daggers dressed in silk. Sicily was quiet, but quietness is not peace. The island pulsed with discontent, grain shortages, pirate whispers, old blood feuds. Cassian ruled with firm hands, reducing corruption and silencing thieves. But his ways, swift and iron-bound, made the people fear him more than love him. Petitions reached Rome. "He governs like a soldier, not a consul," one read. The Senate began to sharpen its blades. One night, a slave delivered a scroll to Cassian. The wax bore no seal, but the message was clear. "You have grown taller than the walls around you. Beware the pruning." He burned it and said nothing, yet sleep evaded him. He dreamt of marble cracking, of laurel crowns turned to ash. Cassian had never feared war, but this was different. Here, his enemies wore togas and smiled with measured eyes. Back in Rome, Publius Miro whispered of Cassian's ambition. He spoke of a private army, of Sicilian gold used to bribe loyalty. None of it was true, but truth matters little in halls of power. Hadrian listened and said nothing. Age had made him cautious. A letter was dispatched. Cassian was summoned to speak before the Senate. Officially, it was a commendation. Unofficially, it was a test. Cassian arrived in Rome cloaked in humility, but his presence stirred unease. The people still remembered his victories, and crowds gathered to glimpse the war hero. Senators exchanged looks. Power unclaimed is safer than power idolized. In the Curia, he spoke with measured tones, recounting his deeds, swearing loyalty to the Republic. Applause came, yet not all clapped. Some eyes narrowed behind polished masks. The next day, he was invited to dine with Emperor Hadrian. The meal was rich, but the words richer. Hadrian praised him, asked of Sicily, of loyalty, of purpose. Cassian answered as taught, deference laced with strength. Then Hadrian leaned close. Rome does not fear enemies, it fears martyrs. Die in glory and you will be remembered. Live too long and you become a threat. The room chilled. Cassian left the palace with a gift, a golden fibula shaped like an eagle. To many, it was a mark of favor. To him, it was a warning: fly too high and the sun will answer. He returned to Sicily, but things had changed. Spies lingered longer. Letters came late or not at all. His guard grew uneasy. Power had once lifted him. Now it weighed heavy, a crown of lead beneath laurels. A winter came, and with it a fire in the grain stores. It was no accident. 3 guards vanished. A message was etched into the scorched wall: Sicily belongs to Rome, not to you. Cassian ordered a purge. Suspects were taken in the night, questioned, exiled, but unrest grew. Rumors said he'd turned paranoid, a tyrant in exile. From the shadows, Nero watched. He needed only to let the fire spread. Then came the edict. Cassian was relieved of his post. He was to remain in Rome under supervision, offered a role as advisor, honor in name, leash in truth. Pride wounded, he accepted. But his voice in council was dimmed, his words recorded, twisted. He walked marble halls like a ghost of glory, a general without command. At night, he wandered the Palatine, counting the statues that would never be his. Yet Cassian did not forget. From a quiet villa outside the city, he began to write letters to governors, notes of warning, subtle encouragements. Old loyalties stirred. Across the empire, men who had served under him sent cryptic replies. Rome was tired, they said. The people hungered not for bread, but for direction. Cassian felt the ember stir once more, but to ignite it would mean open rebellion. On the Ides of March, Cassian stood in the Forum, watching as the sun bled over Rome's rooftops. He carried no sword, no speech, only silence. His choice was made. He would not raise the Republic's banner in war, nor feed the machine that devours its own. Power had lifted him, then buried him beneath its weight. As dusk fell, a boy approached, asking, "Are you the great Cassian?" He smiled faintly. "I was." And with that, he vanished into history, feared, forgotten, and free.